Hi and welcome to the channel. We all desire good habits, but sometimes sustaining these habits over the long term can be difficult despite our best intentions. I'm sure you have experienced this before, and this is why we will distill some of the key strategies from James Clear's Atomic Habits to hopefully bring about sustained transformation in any aspect of your life. What makes sustaining a habit difficult is usually down to the lack of obvious progress. The key word here is obvious. For example, you may go to gym every other day for a week, then maybe a month, but perhaps the changes are not very apparent, so there is a temptation to give up. However, this is actually the common trajectory of habits. We think that improvements should be linear, but what actually occurs is we arrive at the valley of disappointment. Just note that all the previous work is not wasted, it is stored. This is known as the plateau of latent potential, and there will come a point where the inflection occurs and the results become very clear. Okay, so that's the theory covered, and here are two key strategies to keep you going. Number one, instead of focusing on the outcome, i.e. the goals that you want to achieve, alter your mindset to practice identity-based habits. That is, to become the person. For example, instead of saying that my goal is to create good artwork, I would say, I am becoming an artist. This very subtle change in language means that I'm more likely to embrace the journey of becoming an artist rather than seeking joy only when I have my final masterpiece. The process of learning and experimenting then becomes far more relevant, and each 1% of improvement becomes a reward in itself. 2 is to set up a system for success. Goals are great for the initial push, but you must set up a system that makes the habit easy to perform repeatedly. That way you will fall in love with the process instead of waiting for the euphoria of the end result. Broadly, make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. Again, as I embark on the journey of practicing my artwork, I make the process obvious by always setting up my desk the night before with all my ideas written up and reference pictures in place. So when I'm ready to start the next day, I'm off. Then I also play some of my favorite music, making things attractive. The process of drawing is also made easier by ensuring the right setup and environment with very little distractions. As an extension of making new habits easy to form, you can also use the 2-minute rule. This rule is premised on the fact that habits are formed by repetition, while the amount of time that you spend doing the act is actually not critical. For example, if you want to start an exercise regime, aim to perform some exercise for 2 minutes a day, and once the time is up, stop. This builds mental stamina, and once it becomes routine, you can always increase the length of time in the future. Now, we can also utilize the key sections of the habit loop, made famous in The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. I will give you a very brief overview, but I will also leave the link of the book summary at the end of this video if you wish to explore this concept a little further. Essentially, habits are triggered by a cue that leads to a craving, and action follows to satisfy the craving, and this is the reward. And we can tap into the components of this loop to our advantage. 1. Use the technique of habit stacking, where previous habits are used to stimulate or engage a new habit. For example, in the morning, I have always had a big glass of water when I wake up. So what I do now is I use this cue of having a drink to then immediately start a very short session of meditation. This is then the cue for the subsequent habit of doing some light stretches or yoga. This technique is then combined with temptation bundling, where after you have carried out your new habit or habits, you reward yourself with what you want. So following a light stretch, I get to enjoy a nice breakfast and a hot cup of tea, which is my reward. Another essential thing to keep going with a new habit is to track it. James Clear suggests using simple ways to visually track your progress. It could be as simple as marking on a calendar for each time that you've practiced a new habit, or using a phone app. For example, a friend of mine who successfully quit smoking credited a phone app that tracked the number of days that she hadn't smoked. The app also indicated how much health she had regained and the amount of money that she has saved. The record gave a real sense of achievement and served well to establish a new habit or eliminate a bad one. Ultimately, this book shared many techniques on how to develop good habits, but the key ingredient comes down to becoming the individual, setting up a system for success, and tracking your progress. And by taking repetitive but very small steps, it is most likely that one can develop and sustain any desired habits over the long term. With that, I hope you found value in today's video, and do consider subscribing to the channel to help it grow. Leave me a comment or like, and I'll be sure to respond. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.